So we come to this Upanishad called Mandukya Upanishad, which belongs again to Atharva Veda and revealed to Rishi Mandukya. So here it's again a small Upanishad which deals with the different states of consciousness and the corresponding objects of these states of consciousness, Swapna, Jagrata, Sushupta. Then we come to Taittiriya Upanishad, which belongs to Taittiriya Aranyaka, and it enters into Brahma Vidya by describing the process of teaching and learning. This is again one of the important Upanishads. If we want to know what was the ancient Indian system of education, how through teaching and learning we get into the self-realization, what was the process? So this is divided into three parts: Shikshavalli, Bhruguvalli and Anandavalli. In the Shikshavalli, it is all about how do we learn the Vedas, what was the learning teaching process, relationship between teacher and the student, what does the teacher say when the student departs after finishing his education. So this is the content of Shikshavalli, where comes maybe like the convocational, the Dikshant. You see, like people give nowadays convocational address. So how did in ancient time the Kulapati, the Vice Chancellor or the Guru in the Gurukul, the Guru in Gurukul was the Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, Registrar, everything. And he only gave the convocational address. So he said, when he sent out his children, the first thing he says, Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara, Swadhyayana Ma Pramada. So speak the truth, because that is what I have taught you throughout. Never deviate from the path of the truth. Be true to yourself. Dharmam Chara, you follow the path of right. Never deviate from the path of right. Swadhyayana Ma Pramada. Do not deviate from Swadhyaya. Now Swadhyaya is again not just mechanical study of the scriptures, but studying in relation to the self. Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara, Swadhyayana Ma Pramada, Pitru Devo Bhava, Swadhyayat Ma Pramada. That becomes Na, Swadhyayana Ma Pramada, because of the force of Ma. Yeah. Swadhyayana Ma Pramada, Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava. So he says, have respect for your father, mother, the teachers. And in case of doubt, Yadi Karma Vichikitsa Syat, if there is any doubt about your action, find out who are the elderly people, who are the realized people. Go and approach them and try to understand from them and get your doubts cleared. And Prajatantum Ma Vyavachetsi. He says, never cut this continuation of the population. Okay. So get married, get into the Grihastha Dharma, beget children, but in the right way. So always follow the path of right. This was the convocational address when he sent out. Now again here, when we come to the Bhruguvalli of Taittiriya Upanishad, we find again another beautiful story where Bhrugu, he is the son and Varuna is the father. So Bhrugu comes to Varuna. Look at the process of teaching. How did the Guru made the student realize his self? By what power? There was the teaching methodology differed from student to student. Here Bhrugu approaches Varuna and says, Father, I want to learn what is Atman, what is Brahman, what is the real knowledge. And what does Varuna say? He is not saying him that, okay, come from tomorrow and get your notebook, pencil, and then sit here, look at my slides, I'll explain you and listen. He says, go and contemplate. Contemplate on yourself. Gather all your energy. Concentrate on the self, tapas. Because tapas is that ingathered, concentrated energy. He says, increase that power of tapas. Go deep within yourself. Don't live in your apparent self. Don't live in your projection. Ingather and concentrate more and more in the center of your being, and then come back. So he goes and contemplates deeply in himself, and he has certain realization. He comes back and says, Father, I have realized something. What have you realized? He says, I have realized the matter is Brahman. The annam brahmeti vyajanat. Annam brahmeti. That anna is Brahman. The food, the matter is Brahman. This is what I have realized. Then what did the father say? He said, I am happy that you have realized this much. But this is not the end of the learning. Go and contemplate more. Increase your power of tapas. Do a little more hard work. And then see what happens to you. So he goes back again. And then contemplates. And comes back for the second time and says, I have realized something beyond this. And this time the realization is that prana is Brahman. The life force is Brahman. The life force which sustains the matter is Brahman. Now, the father says, yes, good, I am happy. But still there is something beyond. Go and contemplate more. Third time he was sent. He comes back and says that I have come back with a greater realization. Now I realize the manas operating in matter and prana, regulating the prana, is the Brahman, is the supreme knowledge. Then he says, yes, good, but go and try out again. Again he is sent for the fourth time. He contemplates and comes back. He says, yes, I have a greater realization. There is something beyond mind. There is something beyond mind. And when that something which is beyond mind, when it enters into the realm of mind, mind knows its own swabhav and knows also like what is its own limitation and its own pure nature, and then comes in contact with that higher. And that higher is Vijnanam. Vijnanam Brahmeti. So the father says, yes, you have reached another level of realization, but still that is not the end of it. Go and contemplate more. If there is something greater, so come back. So he goes for the fifth time. And then when he comes back, he didn't have to say anything. Varuna says, now you are shining with that knowledge. You are so full of bliss. He says, yes, Father, I have realized, not just realized. So he says that I have realized Anandam Brahmeti. That Anandam is the Brahman. So the father says, no, not that you have realized, you have become Ananda. This was the teaching of Varuna to Bhrigu. Now, the question is that teach me. Just teach me. And when a seeker comes with this question, teach me, he comes with the teach me what is the higher knowledge, what is the self-knowledge. Now here there is one important aspect that we know, that in the spiritual tradition, in all the scriptures, so it is not just knowing. The story doesn't end with knowing. So that is why in our tradition we have three different words. The first word is Brahmajna. Brahmajna means one who knows the Brahman, has the knowledge of the Brahman, has the realization of the Brahman. But many people get stuck at this stage and they say that I have known Brahman, I have realized Brahman, there is nothing beyond it. Therefore Sri Aurobindo says there are many people who have realized Brahman. There are many Brahmajnas. But their nature is as raw, as primitive as it was. Has the Brahman knowledge, but nature is not yet transformed. They don't have the psychic realization. They have the knowledge of the Brahman. They know partially what it is. So how does it come? The next stage, it says Brahmishtha. Brahmishtha means whatever realization happens, one needs to get settled in that and live that realization in the day-to-day life, in the practical life, in every aspect of life. It's not mere the knowledge, the implication of the knowledge in the life. And that is also not the ultimate stage. Then you have the word Brahmi Bhuta. That one doesn't just live the Brahman, live the realization, live according to the realization, but one becomes that. Brahmi Bhuta. And much importance was given to this last stage in the education, in the spiritual scriptures, guidance. When Narad came to Sanat Kumar, or Bhrigu went to Varuna, or Shwetaketu went to Uddalaka, ultimately this was expected, a Bhuta, that one has to become the Brahman. One has to become what? Therefore, when Sri Aurobindo Society was formed in 1960, so Mother had given this motto for Sri Aurobindo Society. To know is good, to live better, to be, that is perfect. This is the motto of Sri Aurobindo Society. Brahmajna, Brahmishta and Brahmi Bhuta. So now, Brahmajna, Jna, Brahmajna, like Vijna, Prajna, Ajna. Now here we have one approach, to know, to live and to be. So mere knowing, because there are many people who are knowledgeable, have the knowledge, but they don't live the truth that they know. Living is important, and when one lives, one becomes. One becomes, one lives in the unity of consciousness. There is no division. He is what he is. So here we get one approach, how Bhrigu was given this self-realization by following the path of tapas, the concentrated energy of the consciousness, by going deep in contemplation. Now we come to another story.
What would be the essential difference that one would notice in a person who's living the realization and who becomes the realization?
Yeah. So one who is living, this is what I have not realized, so it will be difficult for me to say, but what we have understood from the, things, that one who lives, every aspect of the knowledge that he speaks, it is reflected in his personality. That's living. And when one who has become, he doesn't have to say anything. His presence is enough. And he says, and it materializes. He says, let there be a bird here. It's not magic, it's not black magic. But he is the truth, he has become the truth. He says and it becomes true. He says and it's the truth. So the one who has become, He, like, Sri Aurobindo, someone asked Sri Aurobindo, "Are you God? Are you God?" He said, "Yes, I am God. And you are also God. You should know it and behave accordingly." You should know it and behave accordingly. So, one who has become God, all his behavior will be God-like.
Our professor will take on the negative side of it, the positive side, the negative side of it. Take it till you make it, till you become it. Yeah. So, if you leave it till you take it, you will get caught. It is negative, but actually for positive. That means I do not have a quality, which is a leadership quality or a communication quality. And I want to acquire it, but I don't have it. There are people involved, I don't have it. So I don't take it. Initially. There's a fake it. But if you fake it, you get caught and you get badly kicked out. So till you make it, but then don't stop. Even if you have made it, you will get caught in some time. Till you become it, that means you learn to live it. And there are a lot of, again, studies there, she gives a lot of cases with studies. And those who have seen the video, there's a video worth seeing, bedrock. And it's one of the famous ones. How to acquire qualities which you don't have. If you start living in those qualities, you start behaving like it.
You become that.
Out of negative comes something good. In something, of course, it starts off with a child.
Okay. So we see one approach here, the approach of Varuna teaching to Bhrigu. We come to another approach. Shvetaketu was the single child, only son. Shvetaketu, Uddalaka also had a daughter named Sujata. So Shvetaketu was his son. Uddalaka, Rishi Uddalaka. Rishi Uddalaka. So Uddalaka was one of the greatest teachers of the Upanishadic time. And these stories will illustrate what should be the quality of a teacher. Now Uddalaka, he was very sad about his only son Shvetaketu's attitude. Shvetaketu was not interested in going to Gurukul. He didn't want to study. He was already now 12 years old, no education, just playing, moving. Now, Uddalaka once called him, Shvetaketu said, "Look, in our family, there has been no one who is a Brahma Bandhu." Brahma Bandhu. Brahma Bandhu means not friend of Brahman, but for whom Brahman is a bondage. Bandhu means bondage, one who binds. He says everyone is a Brahma Jnani, so listen to my words, go and get yourself admitted in some Gurukul and learn. Because I don't want to see one Brahma Bandhu in our lineage, in our family. So something strikes, so Shvetaketu goes to a Gurukul and studies there till he is 24 years old. So 12 years of education, and he comes out as the brightest student. He excelled in every field, every subject. So after the Dikshant is over, his education is over, so he comes back to his father. Now Father Uddalaka is peeping through the window to see how does my son walk, how does he behave with others. And then he realized that this fellow has not got any education. So before he entered, he stopped him. "Tell me, my child, my dear child, what have you learnt?" Then he says, "Father, I was the brightest student in my Gurukul, and you are asking me what have I learnt? Name anything under the sky. I have learnt that. All the Vedas, everything, all that was there. Like Narad went and gave the list of subjects that he had studied before Sanat Kumar. Now Shvetaketu also is telling that. Now Uddalaka asks him a very simple question. He says, tell me, and look at the depth of this question. Uddalak asks him, Shvetaketu, tell me, do you know that knowing which the unknowable can be known, the unseen can be seen, the unthinkable can be thought of? Yena adrushta drushta bhavati, ashrutam shrutam bhavati, amatam matam bhavati. Adrushtam drushtam bhavati, ashrutam shrutam bhavati, amatam matam bhavati. The unseen can be seen, the unheard can be heard of, the unthinkable can be thought of. Now Shvetaketu says, he starts sweating. He says, Father, I don't know. Maybe my teachers didn't know about it, so they didn't teach me. So Uddalaka said, did you ask your teacher? He said, this very question didn't arise in me. He said that. How do you say that your teachers didn't teach you? He says, Father, then what is the way out? Since you have asked me the question, you should be having the knowledge. So why don't you teach me? Now Uddalaka says, yes, come, I will teach you. So now he takes the responsibility of teaching his child, who has, after finishing his education. Now he says, and the teaching, the whole dialogue is a long dialogue in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Very long dialogue. And the way Uddalaka teaches to Shvetaketu is amazing. Very practical. So he says, the first thing he says, he demonstrates. What is that? He says, son, my dear child, bring a glass of water. So he brought a glass of water. He said, bring a pinch of salt. So he brings, he said, put it there, leave it, and come after some times. So he comes after some times. He said, taste it. So he says, it is salty. Is it throughout salty? So he drank the whole. He says, yes, throughout the salty. Then he brings another glass. He says, put salt. Now you know that the whole water is salty? He said, yes, because I have checked. From top to bottom, the entire water is salty because I have added salt to it. He says, where is the salt? He says, it has become a one with the water. It's not visible. He said, it is the same way that Supreme Reality, the Brahman, lives in everything and being. It is a matter to experience Him. He can't be seen, heard, but you can experience, you can taste and say that yes. But if someone asks you, show me, can't show it. He says, Father, I am getting curious. Teach me something more now. I said, okay. We have a huge banyan tree in our courtyard. Go and fetch one banyan fruit. So he brings. He said, break it. What do you see inside? He said, I see so many seeds. He said, break one seed. So he breaks it further. He said, what do you see inside? He said, I see some, fiber kind of thing, very tiny. Because banyan seed will be very tiny. And further breaking it, what does one get inside? So he says, the father says, break it, further break it. Even the fiber also you break it. So he tries to break it, he smashes it. And then says, what do you find? He says, there is nothing. He says, my dear child, how can from nothing this huge banyan tree come? One seed is enough. You say nothing. But this huge banyan tree is there in that what you call nothing. The small seeds. And each seed can become one huge banyan tree. So the same way the Supreme Reality has that potentiality to become this whole creation. It is there in essential form. But the seed also lives in the banyan tree. It is born out of the banyan tree. So this is, when you know that, knowing that, the unknowable will be known. The unthinkable can be thought of. The unseen can be seen. The unheard can be heard. Then he gives another example. He says, the lump of clay. If you reduce all like clay image and various things made out of clay, if you reduce all those, essentially it is clay. But it has taken different shapes. The same way, the Brahman, this lump of clay, can take any amount of shape, any forms, but essentially it is one. The clay lives in all these different forms that are formed out of clay, and the whole dialogue goes on. This is one approach. And so slowly he takes him, and every time he comes to the end part, he says, Tattvamasi. And you are that. The Supreme Reality who lives in everything, the Brahman, it is nothing but you. You are that. Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi. He goes on repeating. Then, once this education is over, the interesting part is, now Shvetaketu feels, wow, I was taught in Gurukul and came out as the brightest student. Now my father has given me further education, now I am competent enough to debate with others. Let me go out and debate with other kings and Rajarshis and Brahmarshis, because I have got knowledge. He feels very curious, happy. So, in spite of, like his father prohibiting him not to go, he didn't listen. He went to a king called Pravahana. He is a Rajarshi. So he goes. So the Pravahana says to him, take some cows and some money, because this is what, for which many Brahmins, seers, they come to a king to seek for that wealth. So he says, no, I have not come for that. So why have you come then? He says, I want to debate with you. He said, you are a small child, and the debate has to happen between eligible people. Do you have the eligibility to debate with me? He said, yes, I have the eligibility. Don't look at my age, look at what I know. He said, no, I don't consider your age, but looking at your face, it doesn't seem that you are eligible. Because whoever is eligible, it shines on his face. This question doesn't come up. He said, but how do you know? Prove it. So he said, okay, I'm asking you a few questions. So he asked him 5 questions. None of the 5 questions he could have any answer. He got very humiliated. He got angry with his father. He only told me that, okay, my knowledge is complete. And complete in the sense he has given me the knowledge. But Shvetaketu took it, There was initial enthusiasm, curiosity, but he didn't take it very seriously inside. He has not yet realized that inside is still raw. So he comes back to Dalaka and says, Father, what did you teach me? So much of humiliation. He asked me these 5 questions and I was unable to answer any of these questions. Why didn't you teach me? So Uddalak says, good, look, what are the questions he asked? Tell me. So he presented before Uddalaka. So these are the 5 questions. Now Uddalak says, believe me, my child, I also have no answer to these 5 questions. If I had, why I would have hidden it from you? And since Pravahana had asked you, so let's go to Pravahana and learn it from him. Now Shvetaketu says, enough. I can't go on, making my education. So after that, one doesn't hear anything about Shvetaketu. His education is over there. But Uddalaka, goes to Pravahana. So Pravahana says, what do you want? Cows, wealth, whatever you say. He said, no. My child came and you asked these 5 questions. And I want to learn from you what is the answer to these questions. He says, okay, you wait. After 1 month I will answer you. So very patiently waits for 1 month. Then one fine morning, Pravahana comes and says, you know Uddalak, you are an established teacher and a Brahmin, and I am a Kshatriya. I am Rajarshi and you are Brahmarshi. I can't teach you. I can't become your guru. But I want to pass on this knowledge to you. Come and become my friend. So as a friend, not as a teacher, I will teach you. So he accepts him as his friend and then starts giving this knowledge. But before that, this is recorded in the Upanishad. So Pravahana says, remember Uddalaka, the knowledge which I am going to transfer to you was never with any Brahmin till date. This Vidya was only with the Kshatriyas. And it is for the first time in the history of the world, this knowledge is getting transferred to a Brahmin. Then he gives the knowledge. This is what is the content that one finds in the Chandogya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. I think it comes in the Chandogya Upanishad, Chandogya. Now, here, when Uddalak is learning from Pravahana, something else happened. There were another group of young seekers who wanted to learn about Vaishvanara Vidya. There is a particular Vidya. In Upanishad itself, there are 32 different Vidyas which are described. Okay. There is Samvarga Vidya, Bhuma Vidya, Prana Vidya, Madhu Vidya. Vidya means it's a particular discipline through which something of the some part of the Brahman, the greater knowledge, the greater self is achieved. That is what is Vidya known in the Upanishad. No. So Vaishvanara Vidya is one of the Vidyas where one learns about the presence of the Vaishvanara Agni, the universal Agni in everything and being. So these 5 seekers, they knew that Uddalak was the expert in Vaishvanara Vidya. So they come, they knowing that he is living in Pravahana's court, so they come to Uddalaka and then asks him that, sir, we have come to learn the Vaishvanara Vidya and you are an expert in that. Now Uddalak says, yes, I have the expertise. I know what Vaishvanara Vidya is, but I know it for myself. But I am not eligible to teach you. I don't have that confidence to teach this Vidya to others, though I have the knowledge of it. So Uddalaka was not feeling confident teaching this. He said, but I know another guru who is confident in teaching. So let's go together and learn of Vaishvanara Vidya. He also joins along with these 5 and goes and again learns because he wanted to gain confidence so that he can teach. So when we look at the whole life of Uddalaka as a teacher, he went on adding knowledge to his possession. Wherever he found that there is something new which he doesn't know, he had this passion to go, spend time, sit near the Guru and learn of it. He never hesitated. Yet he was one of the greatest teachers. We come to another aspect in the Upanishad, the story of Satyakama. Satyakama was an outcast child Outcast in the sense he doesn't have a place in the society. Why? Because nothing is known about his lineage. So he approaches, but he has an intense desire, intense aspiration to learn, to know himself, know the world, get into the higher knowledge. But who will teach him? Because as per the rule, so the Guru will first ask, who is your father, who is your mother? Though he had his mother, but he didn't know who was his father. So still he gathers courage and goes to a rishi called Haridrumata Gautama and says, sir, I want to be initiated into the Brahma Vidya. He said, but who is your father? He said, I don't know. He said, but learn, ask your mother. So he goes and asks his mother, mother, tell me, who is my father? Now mother tells, you know my child, I was not a sevika, I was a paricharika. Sevika, the difference between sevika and paricharika, sevika is a maid who is confined to one home. Paricharika moves from home to home, serves in many homes. She says, I was a paricharika when I was young and I had relationship with many. I don't know who is your father. This is how I got you. I'm not sure who is your father. But my name is Jabala. Your name is Satyakama. Let the world know you as Satyakama Jabala. Now who has the gut to go and tell this truth in front of others about his mother? So he goes and stands before Haridrumata Gautama. This is what my mother told me. Now what did Haridrumata Gautama said? Go and fetch the dry woods, I will initiate you. So he says, none other than a Brahmin has the gut to tell this truth. You are already a realized boy. Go and fetch the dry wood. Dry wood symbolically means you are ready to catch fire. Arani. So he comes and he gives him initiation. Now he says, look, because the process was different from person to person, student to student. He didn't accept him as a formal student to teach him Vedas, Upanishads, Gita, because he was ready. Maybe he was some like child of another great rishi. So now he says, I have these 400 lean cows, weak cows. Take them to the forest and live with those cows. Now Satyakam says, yes, I'll go, I'll feed them, I'll foster them, and I'll come back when they become 1,000. So he carries all these 400 cows and lives in the solitude of the forest. And in that silence, he becomes silent. He became one with the silence. And in that silence, the knowledge dawns unto him. So he has forgotten himself. Who is he? Where is he? Why he has come here? He knows nothing of himself. He lives in eternity. He lives in that silence. Now a bull comes and tells Satyakam, have you forgotten us? We have become 1,000. Lead us to the ashram. And then the bull says, before you lead us, I am going to teach you one part of the Brahman. This one part of the Brahman is that the Brahman shines in all the four directions in the form of Prakash. So he is Prakasavan. He is Prakasavan. Because of him, the directions Purva, Paschima, Uttara, Dakshina, it shines. It shines with his light. So he is Prakasavan. This is just one part of the Brahman. This is one part of the higher knowledge. And when you go, Agni will come and teach you the second part. So know him and contemplate and meditate on the Brahman as Prakasavan, And when you meditate, contemplate with sincerity, intensity, you become Prakashavan. You will shine. So he goes with the cows and takes rest in the evening. And again Agni comes and tells him, the bull has given you one part of the knowledge. I am going to teach you the second foot. What is it? He says, the Brahman, know the Brahman to be Anantavan. Anantavan. He is Ananta. He is infinite. He lives in the sky. He lives on the earth. He lives in the ocean. Feel the vastness, vast stretch of expansion of the earth, vast stretch of the expansion, the vastness of the sky, vastness of the ocean, vastness of the heaven. Ananta. You are that Ananta. You are that infinite, endless vastness. When you contemplate on that, you become that. This is the second realization. And when you go ahead, a swan will come and teach you the third foot of the Brahman. So he goes, and next day a swan comes and tells, I am going to tell you the third foot of the Brahman. He says the Brahman lives in the form of Jyoti. Jyoti means light, in the form of brilliance. He is there in the sun. He is there in the moon. He is there in the fire. He is there in the lightning, in the form of Jyoti. So the Jyoti that you see in the sun, in moon, in fire and lightning, he is that Jyotishman Brahman. Contemplate. And you become Jyotishman. So he comes, and then he says the fourth part will be given to you by a diver bird. The birds which dive, the water crow or something like that, they dive into the water and fetch their fishes. So diver bird, Madhugu, the word which is there is Madhugu. Madhugu. So it will teach you the rest of the things. He says, know the Brahman as the support. Because of this Brahman, the speech is there, the senses are there, the mind is there, the prana is there. Because this is the support, ayatana. And knowing this support, ayatanavan, you become ayatanavan, you become that Brahman. This is the fourth part of the Brahman knowledge. Now he comes. And what does Haridramata Gautam say? He didn't have to teach him. He embraces him. He says, Satyakam, you are shining with the knowledge of Brahman. Who taught you? He says, he reveals the whole story, but then says, but unless and until I hear it from you, my knowledge will not be complete. Now again the same knowledge, all that he learnt from the four, is taught to him by Haridramata Gautama. And then Satyakama emerges as another great teacher. So this was the teaching, learning process throughout the Upanishads. One finds the different realizations that happened, the different aspects of the Brahman knowledge. This is the content of the Upanishads. And Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Chandogya Upanishad are full with such kind of stories, where one gets it, it's revealed like how this knowledge was imparted. Another teacher was Yajnavalkya, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, belonging to Yajurveda. So here one finds many stories of Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya and Ajatashatru, these were the two rishis whom Sri Aurobindo admired much. Because they were not happy with the partial knowledge. They were always seeking and had the complete knowledge of many things. The perfectionist kind of thing. So Yajnavalkya goes to, he always had a good relationship with Janaka. Janaka means not, it's a status again, like Vyasa, Janaka is a status. The Rajarshis who have attained to perfection through work. So one of the Janakas who was there during Yajnavalkya time. So once he declared that anyone in my kingdom or belonging to this age, my time, can prove himself to be the best among the Brahmajnanis, will have all these 1,000 cows, and on each cow's horn there is a bag hanging, and each bag contains 1,000 gold coins. 1,000 gold coins on each cow and 1,000 cows. All the Brahmajnanis of that time, they are sitting, and Janak is making this declaration, and the whole court, the meeting place, is absolute pin drop silence. Who has the gut to say that I am best among the Brahmajnanis? Now Yajnavalkya was present there in that meeting with his disciple Somya. So he got up and said, Somya, carry all these cows to our ashram. Yajnavalkya is a very humorous rishi. So Janak says, how dare you? Do you think that you are the best among the Brahmajnanis? So he said, best or worst, I don't know, I need cows to run my ashram. If you have doubt, question me. And then he was flooded with questions. Each Brahmajnani present there asked all kinds of questions related to Brahma Vidya. This is interesting to know, and go to Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and read this long dialogue which happened. All the top level Brahmajnanis of that time puts questions, most difficult questions. And finally everyone had to bow down before Yajnavalkya says, yes, declare. All of us, we declare that he is the best among all the Brahmajnanis. Then on another occasion, so after that Janak thought that, he said to Janak, that I won't speak to you. I am in silence. But Janak would, always force him that speak. And Janak was also a little scared of Yajnavalkya. So one day he appeared before Janak. So Janak asked, why have you come? For cows or for debate? He said, both. I want to debate with you, I also want cows, because how I will run my ashram. Then when Yajnavalkya has decided not to reveal certain things to Janak, so then he was forced to speak and have a dialogue with Janak. So there are many stories like this we learn, and these different realizations of the different rishis as presented in the Chandogya, Brihadaranyaka, in Kena Upanishad, in Kathopanishad, in Ishopanishad. So these different knowledge, realizations were known as the Vidya. Vidya is not just the realization, but the path, the way, the processes of achieving that realization. This is what is known as the Vidya in the Upanishads, and there are many Vidyas. Above 32 Vidyas, and some people even reduce it to and small stories take and then make it 39, 40 different kinds of Vidyas. And these have a very great correspondence with the Tantric tradition, wherein the Tantra, the Dasha Mahavidya, the 10 great cosmic powers or the divine mother's aspects which are there. So they have a lot of correspondence. All these scriptures, the Vedas, Upanishads, the Tantra, Gita, and other spiritual scriptures or carrying spiritual depth, they need to be studied in relation to each other. The knowledge is reconciled. They present a synthetic knowledge, greater synthesis that has happened in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, in the Gita, in the Tantras, in Sri Aurobindo. They all need to be studied in relation to each other, how they complement each other, not in isolation. Then I think we can enter into the spirit of the scriptures or spirit of any text that we choose. So this is what, very briefly, the story of Upanishads. And then there is much more to learn. Each Upanishad can be learned in, we're going to have separate workshops for each Upanishad and learn. There's no end to it.